The 19th Astana talks kicked off this week in the Kazakh capital, with Turkey, Russia and Iran expressing concern over the volatile situation in Syria's northeast. While the three countries reaffirmed their commitment to Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity, there were some tough words and warnings. And there were also some mixed messages coming out of Washington on Ankara's security concerns. After the Astana talks, Russia asked Turkey to refrain from a full-scale ground offensive into Syria. Turkey, which suffered a terrorist attack in Istanbul earlier this month, launched a new round of airstrikes against YPG targets in northern Syria and Iraq. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan reiterated that a ground operation could come at any time. Syria, which has been in a civil war since 2011, has seen its territory overrun by several terror groups, including Daesh and the YPG. Turkey has launched three major operations to clear its border, where it hopes to create a safe zone for the return of millions of Syrian refugees. And for more on the Astana talks and Syria, I'm joined by Marwan Kabalan. He is a Syrian academic and writer and is the director of the Diplomatic Studies program at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. And Yusuf Alabarda, he is a security analyst based in Ankara. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you on the program. So, Marwan, delegations from Russia, Turkey, Iran, the Syrian regime and the Syrian opposition have gathered to discuss the country's ongoing civil war. Has anything concrete been achieved at the 19th meeting? And are there any progress between the negotiations between the Syrian opposition and the regime?
Not really, Aisha. As you know, this is round number 19. We have been having this platform for the past 5-6 years now. It was established, as you know, in 2017.
Yes.
And so far, no real progress has been really made in terms of solving the Syrian crisis. On the contrary, I feel we are seeing like more moving backward, in my opinion, because the regime has almost frustrated everybody. You know that the Constitutional Committee, which has actually been the byproduct of the Astana process, has not been moving at all over the past 3-4 years. And the regime is making it difficult for almost everybody, including his own allies. I'm talking here about Russia and also Iran, in order to find a window, because everybody is tired now from this conflict, and everybody would like to see a light at the end of the tunnel. But so far, as I said earlier, no real progress has so far been made.
Yeah, nothing significant has been achieved. So, Yusuf, the meeting came on the backdrop of Turkish air operations into northern Syria. What do you make of the Iranian and Russian reaction to this operation? Although they acknowledge the legitimate threats faced by Turkey, why do you think they're opposed to a possible ground operation?
You know that Russia and Iran claims and underlines themselves as a legitimate force inside Syria because the regime has invited them to the Syria. For that reason, they do accept everyone other themselves as illegal inside Syria. For that reason, whatever they are calling these operations, to some degree, yes, Russia has clearly stated that this is the Turkey's legitimate right in order to give a response to the terror attacks which is coming from Syria. But from the Iranian side, we couldn't hear any explanations or any statement about that issue. But I can say that, as my colleague said, that the Astana peace process is not working functionally, especially since 2 years.
What's the reason for that?
The reason for that, especially every side is trying to capture some part of the Syria for his own interest, especially when it comes to the Iran and Russia. They have their own plans, and 30% of the Syria is under the occupation of PKK, YPG groups, together with the US, especially private military companies who is operating at the eastern side of the Euphrates River. For that reason, the Astana peace process, to some degree, yes, it was functional, but since 2 years, it didn't produce any result because everyone started to chase its own agenda inside Syria again.
So, Marwan, would a ground operation really destabilize the region and instigate more violence, as claimed by the US? I mean, how complicated and dire is this situation in the region?
Well, I think the problem is, in my opinion, the United States has not been really part of the solution in Syria since its intervention in 2014 in order to fight ISIL under the banner of the international coalition. The U.S. has been so blind to see only fighting ISIL in Syria as the main issue. They don't see anything in Syria other than ISIL. And by this strategy, in fact, they are destabilizing everything. Of course, Turkey is complaining about a threat to its own security because of the U.S. support of the so-called Syrian Democratic Forces. The Syrian Democratic Forces is using ISIL as most of the time as an excuse in order to get more support from the United States. Look, for example, over the past few days, they have been saying that they can't actually carry on with the fight of ISIL if Turkey actually continue its aerial strikes against their forces, and they have even hinted that they might be even stop guarding prisoners from ISIL. I mean, they are blackmailing the United States somehow. But the United States, as I said before, its main agenda in Syria has never been solving the Syrian crisis. It has always been, as I said, fighting ISIL, and everybody must be subordinated to this agenda, including the security of Turkey, the security of almost everybody. Everybody should work actually to serve the interests of the United States and the agenda of the United States. This is something that many countries in the region are not willing actually to go along with.
So, Yusuf, what do you say? I mean, are we seeing some mixed messages from the U.S., and why hasn't the organization been rendered ineffective so far, given the enormous support the Washington administration has given to the YPG holdup there?
You know that the explanations and which is coming from United States, as you said, is very complicated. The White House says another thing, the Pentagon says another, and Minister of Foreign Affairs Ned Price is telling another story. But what is the most important issue is here that the Turkish operations are being conducted on the border of a failed state. A failed state is very well known by the United States. For that reason, what they are telling to Turkey in order to not to harm YPG forces, in order not to harm the power which is fighting against the Daesh, is something like a magic wand which is opening all kinds of doors inside Syria, inside Middle East. But when it comes to Turkey, no capable state in the world will allow and sit back and will wait a terror attack will hit himself. For that reason, the Turkey has two political agenda. One of them is to free its borders in 30 kilometers depth from all kinds of terror infiltrations, which is very obvious that Turkey is being attacked by the terror groups, which is more than 100 times in the last year. So Turkey is not also has a political goal to conquer the lands of Syria in the depth of 200 kilometers, such as the Daesh is located. Only 30 kilometers security zone.
Yes, safe zone. So, Marwan, meanwhile, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan hasn't ruled out a possible dialogue with Syria's Bashar al-Assad. What's your take on that? How do you think it's going to play out? And is there a suitable military and political environment for such a rapprochement?
Well, I mean, we have seen a shift in Turkish position over the past few years, in fact. And the main reason we all believe is the threat that is felt by Turkey concerning the rising influence of the Syrian Democratic Forces supported by the United States. And maybe, as I said before, although I should have mentioned something that is really important, that although fighting ISIL is very important for almost everybody and is serving the interests of everybody, but the United States should also address the root causes of the rise of ISIL itself, because unless we do that, we will continue fighting ISIL for the next, 100 years maybe. But let's go back to the question of President Erdogan, the rapprochement between Turkey and the Syrian regime. I think Turkey in this case is acting according to what it sees as its national interest, because now Turkey believes that the major threat to its security is coming from the YPG, the PKK, and Turkey might be seeing that some sort of cooperation with Russia and the Syrian regime could actually address this problem. I'm not sure if this is going to work, because I believe that President Bashar al-Assad maybe is looking for a change of government in Turkey now after the election, maybe.
Yes.
Because Turkey, because the Syrian regime believes that it might be much easier for him to deal with the Turkish opposition rather than dealing with the government of President Erdogan, which has been actually supporting the Syrian opposition for the past few years. So he's actually not, in my opinion, he will not be helping Turkey in solving this problem, because he believes that he doesn't need to help President Erdogan at this point. Maybe if he waits more, he will be dealing with the Turkish opposition.
Yes.
But I think he's miscalculating here.
Okay, so just one last question, Yusuf. How would a possible rapprochement between the two neighbors change the political and military landscape in the region moving forward, and what are the shared interests between them?
The political environment inside Syria will not be changed with the rapprochement of Mr. Erdogan and Bashar al-Assad. But for sure that such kind of rapprochements will no doubt will have a positive effect to the relations, but it is not also a magic wand that all problems will be resolved inside the Syria, and all problems in between Syrian regime and Turkish government will be resolved when they handshake with each other. But let's say that if they handshake with each other, and if Mr. Assad, with the pressure of Russia, accept that Turkish fight against the YPG terror organization alongside these borders, that will also give an international legitimacy, an extra legitimacy, what Turkey is doing now.
All right, gentlemen, we'll have to leave it here. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.